Sleep Geek Podcast. It's a raucous romp through the mattress industry with your hosts, Mark Kinsley and Mark Quinn. Dos Marcos. Mattress industry mavens, hang on to your quilted pillow tops because this tick's about to get real.
So it's a question that's on everyone's mind this time of year. What is the best Christmas movie of all time?
Of all time.
I'm not talking
we're
about
going back.
fly-by-night, Netflix news stuff. I'm talking about best of all time, ever.
Well, I think you should go first because I don't want to upset you when you tell me what you think it is, and then I actually give you the answer because there's only one greatest Christmas movie of all time that can be that number one slot. So what do you think it is?
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're both going to say it at the same time. So it's
wait,
go.
you think that you might say one and then I would actually go, yeah, that's what I was going to say. You
Exactly.
Think that's you think
No,
that's
I just think that I might editorialize what you're going to think or how you're going to react to it.
Okay.
So let's do this. 1, 2, 3, say it.
Okay. You
Okay.
ready?
You going to count us down, Kirsten? We need a third party here.
All right.
No. 1, 2, 3, say it. Okay, so we're going to say
Here we
it right
go.
after 3. Here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Christmas
Elf.
Vacation.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it is. So is
Damn
yours.
it. Okay, I like that. However, Elf is pretty strong, I have to tell you. I like Christmas Vacation. It's classic. It's a classic one. Actually, Christmas Story I would put right up there. So
Yeah, Christmas Story.
you
That's
gotta
a
put
really.
your eye out. That's like the matter of fact that would have.
They're
to
still
be my
selling
guess.
leg
Not
lamps
Elf,
all
it would
over
have
the
to be
place.
Christmas Story. I'm changing my.
You're going to
idea,
change your
but
answer?
I am. I'm sorry. I did.
Count us down again.
It was the pressure.
1,
It was the pressure.
2, 3. Christmas
Christmas Story.
Vacation. Well,
Okay.
we're pretty close.
All
there.
right, we're close. All right. So
I like
anyway,
that.
yeah. So what do you like about Christmas Vacation? Like, what's your favorite?
Cousin
part?
Eddie, of
What's
course.
your favorite part? Yeah.
Cousin Eddie. I mean, he kind of like, Chevy Chase kind of captured the dad of the day. You know, he wanted to
for
be,
sure.
he wanted to be everything to his family. He
Yeah.
wanted to put the lights up. He wanted to have all the Christmas memories. But he ultimately had, a lot of issues going on. Had a lot of family that intervened, and it just really
did.
captured the spirit of like everybody's family to some degree. Sometimes
But what's your favorite part though? Did you have like you know what I'm thinking of right now is when they wrap the cat. And they're holding the cat, the box, and the box is like
It's like a
that's
Jello
so
mold
good.
coming
Yeah,
out of it.
Right. All right, what's your favorite part?
Yeah, and then they cut open the turkey, and what does she sing? The Star Spangled Banner.
Oh yeah. And they all in deference to her, they join in.
Yeah, see, and this
It's
is
so good.
This is the sign of a really good movie, is how many quotable lines they have.
Oh, boy.
And how many times you kind of argue about the
Yeah,
best scene
for sure.
and the characters. I mean, you have Cousin Eddie. That's hard to ignore.
Yeah. So do you watch
know?
Christmas Story on Christmas Day? They
Christmas
loop it.
Vacation.
No, Christmas Story.
Story.
You know what I'm talking about, right? With
Yeah.
Ralphie.
Right.
Right. So they loop that all day long on TBS.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they do. So they like play it like one after the other.
I don't,
all
have,
day
I don't
long.
have cable. I don't have TBS.
Well, then it wouldn't matter. Do you recall any favorite parts of that? I love it because it was shot where my wife kind of grew up. So it's like mid-America, Ralphie, you're going to put your eye out, the Daisy Rider gun, the way it's done, Fragile with the box and the big, leg and the lamp. It's my most valued possession or whatever it was.
Right,
oh my
right.
gosh. So many good scenes.
You're going to have to weigh in. So if you're watching on Facebook, pop over and say, what's your favorite Christmas movie and why? Give us a quotable line.
Do you have a least favorite?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Christmas with the Cranks.
Oh,
Have you ever seen that movie? This is a piece
You
of
did-
trash is what it is.
Wow.
terrible.
Why did you not
It's
like it?
so bad.
Why?
It's one of those things that's very hard to describe and put into words. It just was a collection of incoherence, and I didn't like the storytelling. I didn't like the way it was shot. I just felt so disjointed.
Wow.
My wife's always like, it's not that bad. I'm like, it was terrible to me.
Okay.
Maybe I was just in a bad
Was
mood.
it worse than Christmas?
Maybe I wasn't in the Christmas spirit.
You
at
might
the time.
not have been. So was it worse than Christmas Pause?
I haven't seen Christmas Pause.
It's a free view on Netflix, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, Kirsten, out of the two, Christmas Story and Christmas Vacation, do you have a favorite?
Yes, I do.
Which one?
Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
That
So we're
would
gonna
be
have
the
to
one I
get-
picked.
We'll have to get
actually.
some votes for Christmas Vacation.
No, that has to be. Go ahead.
on.
That comes from the fact that we watch it every Christmas
Comes from
See,
the
there
fact
you
that they
go.
watch it.
It's
tradition. See,
tradition.
that's
There
the
you
thing. If it's tradition, it's going to be,
Sorry, Elf, I backed out on you there. That was
I was
not
at a
cool.
store the other day and they had like all this different, wine stuff or whatever it might be. And they had the Moose mug that Cousin Eddie is holding with all the eggnog in it
that's
for
good.
sale. And I'm like, I think my brother would like that. I don't think he watches the podcast or listens
Yeah, what
to
is the
it, so.
best line? Eddie says, "Time to clean out the shitter."
I'm emptying.
Something like that. Anyway, all right, we got stuff to talk about. You went to a leadership conference, Furniture Today. I think that's one of their best events. Of course, Dave Perry's betting conference is amazing, but Furniture Today's leadership conference, another fantastic event, and you got to go.
I got to go. It was really well put together. Bill McLaughlin with Furniture Today did a great job. This is right in the middle of a lot of people in the industry might have heard about this, but Progressive Media was purchased, and so there was a lot of excitement around that. You had some new blood in the room on the Furniture Today side of things, but it started off with a general. His name was General Bowles, and he had a leadership message to tell. And he did a very good job. I mean, he was exciting and he was inspirational. He had great stories to tell. And then it got into a panel, and the panel was with 3 CEOs. And so you had Havertys, Nebraska Furniture Mart.
Clarence.
You had Clarence from Havertys. You had Irv from Nebraska Furniture Mart. And you had Keith from City Furniture.
Yeah, great guys.
All up on stage. And hold on, I'm missing one other. I'm sorry. He was a new guy, fresh perspective, younger in the industry. I'll have to look it up, and I do apologize. But they did a really good job of bringing some real insights that were concrete and not just theoretical pie in the sky stuff. So we'll have to get into that. Hey, real quickly, before we go too far, I loved General Bowles' leadership message. He told this really great story. So I'm kind of going in order in the conference in my mind. He told this really great story where he had just taken over like this logistics unit in the Army, and he saw this private first class that was in charge of all these buses and vans going in and going out. And he said, I met this kid and he was just a winner, right? I mean, he was on it. He did not need me there. He was telling me, stem to stern, everything that needed to happen and how it happened and in what order.
Like a young Mark Kinsley would be.
Mark Quinn circa 2018.
Definitely not. Anyway, keep going.
So he then went over to this other section, and there was a building, and he kind of walked a different direction and ended up going in the back door. And so he goes in the back door, and everything's humming along and going just fine. And he's standing beside this desk, and a telephone is ringing. And it's ringing, and it's ringing, and it's ringing, and nobody picks it up. And so he's standing right there. He picks up the phone. And he said, General Bowles, or it wasn't General at the time, but Colonel Bowles, and how can I help you? And there was somebody on the other side, but they weren't really saying anything. And he kept after it. And finally, he got an answer, and it was the private that he had just talked to. And he said, well, why are you calling? What do you need? How can I help you? And he said, well, sir, I was supposed to call them whenever you showed up and let them know that you were heading into the building.
So he answered the call.
Oh,
that's good.
But the lesson for him was, leadership for him was being a part of things to the point where people didn't feel the need to warn the others that you were coming their direction. And it was just it really was just a poignant way of kind of saying, you got to show up, you got to build trust, you got to deepen those relationships. And so anyway, he was a good guy. And he also had this recap of history and stuff like that, and touched on right before he passed along George Bush Sr., and how he had a 91% approval rating but still lost the election to Clinton.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Obviously, Herbert Walker Bush passed away, and so kind of a sad thing. But he lived to 96, I think.
96.
And
didn't he go skydiving on his 90th birthday?
He did, and he had a really robust life, I guess. He was very active up until the end. Did you see the photo of his service dog laying at the foot of his casket as President Bush lay in his casket? That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was a tough scene.
Yeah, no, it was.
Tough scene. Also very touching, though.
You hear Obama and Clinton and others, and his son, of course, speaking out on his behalf the last couple of days, and I love it because you get the sense from everyone that President Bush really brought that dignity, and he was a real statesman for the office. And there's a lot of ego to be in that kind of job, and I never felt like he really had that. The office was never about him; it was about the country. So I respect that about him, and regardless of what you think he did in terms of the job, I like the guy. I think his sense of family, he always poured his heart out. He always told his kids he loved them, made that very public. His son, I heard in an interview this weekend, they said, "So what did your dad tell you when you became president?" He said, "He told me, 'I love you, son.'" And I thought, wow, that's, of all the advice he could have given, that was pretty good advice, or good thing to support his kid.
Well, and he was a Texas guy too.
Yes, he was.
So you growing up in Houston,
Yep.
you knew about the Bushes.
Well, yeah, from being in Houston, actually. Yeah, exactly. So yes, in the people I know that know the family all have similar things to say. Just very gracious and humble and very cool people. So anyway, prayers for that family and for the nation as we mourn the loss of a president. And anyway, so that's pretty neat that guy brought it up at the conference.
Yeah, he brought it up at the conference, and it really was in advance of that happening. So there we are at a leadership conference, and on the back end of this, one of the great leaders of our time, one of the great leadership families of our time. What a special thing. I mean, think about that family. I mean, two
like
presidents.
Kennedys, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
have so many. They're the dynasty, right?
Yeah, the dynasty.
And think about George Bush too. He was in the CIA, director of CIA. He flew as a Navy pilot in World War II. I think it was Navy pilot. And he was vice president for 8 years and president for 4. So what a career. My gosh. I'm pretty blown away with all of that. But anyway, so there you go.
I heard that George Bush is the most known name in Houston. The second most known name is Jim Mattress Mac McInvale. He's the second most known person. And it's
No
somebody
doubt
from
in
the
my
furniture
mind.
industry.
No doubt in my mind.
And I would imagine that they were connected in some capacity.
Oh no, yeah, I know they've collaborated on stuff in the past, but yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Furniture guy right at the top. Anyway, so tell us more. So you had a panel. What was the Just Kinsley on the panel? So was there a focal point? Did it kind of, as those things typically do, kind of steer themselves into a singular discussion about something?
They really did. And as you hear these panels, sometimes you're obviously trying to get into some of the relevant issues of the day. But I connected the dots on 2 points, and I ended up tweeting quite a bit about this. So you can always follow me at Mark Kinsley, and you're at Mark Quinn.
At Mark Quinn 03, yep.
Yeah, so at Mark Kinsley or at Mark Quinn 03. But I was tweeting about this and actually tweeting Dave Perry to say, hey, maybe we should ask him this question. But here's what happened. So the conversation went, Clarence with Havertys. So Clarence was talking about Havertys and their private label products, which are 100% of their mix except mattresses. So instead of, getting, for example, Lazy Boy sofas and merchandising Lazy Boy sofas on your floor, they are doing private label products and building their own brands. I don't know the names of those brands, and maybe it's under the Havertys brands, but they're house brands. So everything on their floor is 100% private label except mattresses. And then meanwhile, you had Keith Koenig from City Furniture, and it seemed like they were kind of shifting into another topic, but he was saying, look, brands matter. There just aren't a lot of good ones, is what he said. The brands do matter because consumers are looking for something to trust. And he said, yeah, as a retailer, if you want to have house branded products, you can do it, but you have to invest. And so I'm connecting those two things, thinking brands matter, people want something they can trust, retailers can do it, Havertys is proving that, but the one outlier, the product category that wasn't getting private labeled, at least in the Havertys environment, was the mattress category, which told me, and I've heard Dave Perry from Furniture Today talk about this before. He's like, all the action is on the mattress side of things because you have a history, a legacy of marketing, you have an investment there, you have a lot of brand building. So it made me think, as we get into the future of people thinking about their house brands and thinking, there's always been this debate, is it the retailer or is it the brand? Do people shop at the store because they were driven in because of the brand and the brand advertising, or because they know this retailer and it represents a filter for them that's positive? So as you hear those two sides of the coin, private label house brands versus investing in brands, what do you think the shakeout of that is? Or is it just a big fat mix?
Well, no, I think that, okay, so starting with Havertys, I like their strategy of private label, but I'll tell you, Koenig with City Furniture, they've got the Kevin Charles, I believe, is the brand.
Is he a basketball player?
No, it's actually Keith's brother, who used to be part of the business.
Oh, Brian Woods from Jerome's. He was the other one on the panel. Jerome's on the West Coast.
I see them all the time on LinkedIn. I have to meet those guys.
Brian Woods.
They
Sorry,
do some
Brian.
really cool stuff. Brian, I'm coming to California. I want to meet you guys. But anyway, so they have private label too. I think what's happened, Kinsley, is that the mattress, so the furniture brands, I don't think they've done a very good job at all of building any value in their brands. So even my opinion, but even so, if you look at Ashley, you look at Ethan Allen and Lazy Boy, I'd say those are names that you know. But I would argue, even with Ashley, I don't know what we know about them other than they are a big manufacturer.
Well, there's one out there that I think is worth noting, and that's Lazy Boy.
Lazy Boy, right? Which is right.
Because,
so they've built.
But they're
value.
known for a product category. They created this category, and they're known for that category. Of course, now they do all kinds of other products besides the recliner. But that's definitely what people know them for.
Yeah, but they've invested in telling a story about what they do, right? Ethan Allen with quality, Lazy Boy with recliners, and then they've expanded out early on with Brooke Shields, and I'm sure they've been doing some other things. But my point is, if a branded product is not investing in themselves, then when you go to a retailer, in the absence of any spend or investment behind that or support, then it makes it much easier for a retailer to jump in and go, you know what, we'll just put our name on it, because they're the ones spending so much of the money in the market. And so you can't just, by the way, in my opinion, say, okay, here's a sword, we're going to dub this, new leather group our brand, and it's going to be successful. You have to lean into it. You have to tell the consumer why your private label brand is better than the other manufacturers out there. And then you can have success with that. But if no one in the category is doing anything to build value, then it opens the door wide for a retailer to jump all over that. Now, in the mattress category, there has been more investment behind brand names. However, that has stopped. There's not nearly as much. You've got just a couple guys in the traditional distribution system today that have done a lot to build value. And I'm telling you, man, the consumer doesn't know a lot about the traditional brands these days. They know more about guys like Casper and Purple and Tuft & Needle because they're the ones spending the money. What do you think about that?
So, okay, first of all, a couple of questions.
Yes.
Why do you think it is? So if your observation is many of the brands, traditional brands, are not investing as heavily in their ad spend and their marketing and telling their story and building value with the consumer. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, yesterday, oddly enough, I was just thinking about this. Here's what's funny. So you cannot argue that an investment in your product, if you tell story, if you build value in what you're doing, you explain to the consumer why your stuff's better, you create some personality around that, we know factually that delivers leverage to you, right? In leverage, I mean price. It allows you to get bigger prices. It allows you, if you're a product supplier to a retailer, to have better margin for yourself.
If somebody comes in pre-sold on your product
Absolutely.
and you don't have to do much, then you've got a lot more that you can ask for from your retail partners.
Yeah, you've built value in the intangible asset. So if we know that spending money on brand delivers better margin, better profits, better sales, why in the world do people not do that, right? To your point just a second ago. I think the answer is they don't know how, right? And they think that spending money on that stuff is sunk cost. They think it's they for whatever reason in a lot of people's brains, they don't realize that a significant investment to build value in their product and story and brand or retail store, right? They think it's a retailer spends how much, what percent of their ad budget on product price promotion advertising versus talking to the consumer about why we are the place to shop at. Same thing for a bedding brand. The majority of a lot of those guys spend is about here's product price and promotion, and they give up co-op advertising dollars to do that. Versus people really building value. Now, look at the guys who really built value in their brand. Tempur-Pedic, right?
Select Comfort.
Select Comfort. Lazy Boy on the furniture side. Ethan Allen on the furniture side. And they weren't pimping their products for sale. They were building value in what they did. So for the life of me, will never understand, if you have the money, why you wouldn't invest in it that way.
Well, you touched on something that I think is a really relevant point. You said, what if they don't know how?
Right.
And if you don't know how, probably what you're uncovering is this idea that we feel commoditized. We feel like we don't have a voice with the RSA and the retailer. Mm-hmm. We feel like we don't have a unique position in the marketplace. And even if we do figure out our unique position, do we have enough money to actually drive that message home? I would say begin where you are, use what you have, do what you can. But ultimately, when I talk to retailers, there is a consistent theme around how do we present our brand? How do we figure out who we are? How do we figure out how we're different and then communicate that in a creative way that actually proves we're different? No easy task. I mean, those things on paper, it's like, okay, we got to figure out our different point of differentiation, but then you have to prove that point of differentiation and do it fearlessly and consistently over time. The same thing happens with products, I think. You figure out what is the category we're going to own, and if you have a product that isn't unique in your category, that's a tough putt, because then you're getting into some really deep dive creative work that says, what is this product? What are the components? What does it do? What's the story? I got to talk to consumers. I got to figure out this point of differentiation. Then once I do all that and figure out that little granular piece of gem information, how am I going to present that creatively and uniquely? And that's where a lot of people get hung up and they're like, well, kind of throw up your hands and go back to the ranch because the retailer's going to present it however they want to anyway.
Right, no doubt. And I think you're right. They get stuck on the how, Kinsley. And I think that's the sad part because, as we both know, marketing is part art and it's business. It's an intersection. And I don't know how many times I've seen agencies that I've hired that get a hold of a project and they run away with it and they come out with these crazy, creative thoughts on how to execute something, and they don't ever intersect with the business objective, right? And so I think so just because you try something, marketing a product in your store or with your own products, and it doesn't work, doesn't mean marketing doesn't work. It means that approach didn't work. I think people like Havertys, who are doing private label in the rest of their stores and doing branded stuff in their mattress department, I think that more and more people are going to feel more and more comfortable going away from that, getting better margin, finding unique products out there, which is already happening, because of the fact that the traditional brands are not giving the retailer enough in terms of a reason to differentiate. If you're gonna be less in margin than someone else because you have an S in front of your name, then your product needs to stand for something. It needs to be communicated clearly. It needs to be better than what I can get. Because I'm going to tell you, man, it's a tick. It's foam, it's springs, it's fiber wrapped up together. That's what a mattress is. And unless there's something in that square that makes you different and unique, then you got a problem. Unless you're investing a big amount of your money in brand. Do you agree with that?
Well, here's the thing.
How you differentiate? You
brands
gotta do
totally matter, in my opinion, because if you're merchandising your retail floor
right.
and you say brands don't matter, I would say that's mostly not true, because if you go to market, you're going to look at different brands and you're going to navigate that market environment probably based on brand first. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to go see Serta, I'm going to see Simmons, I'm going to see
Tempur-Pedic. But wait a minute.
But hold on. I'm going to get to the point. So if you're a retailer and the retailer is making the argument that brands don't matter, how did you merchandise your floor on the front end in the first place? How did you used to buy? Like, what was buying like in the past? Well, there was something there that mattered. So I don't think there's been that fundamental of a shift in the consumer behavior to say brands don't matter 100%. That's why we're going to go private label. We think we can do it better. A lot of people are, but I'm talking strictly on the mattress side.
Man, all I'm saying, though, on that, I think brands matter, but I'd say it differently. Relevant brands matter.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, do something. Make it a preference issue. Don't come at me and tell me that there is an awareness of your brand, therefore I should be on the floor, that our product should be on the floor because our brand, there's awareness there. It's bullcrap. You got to tell me and prove to me that there's a relevancy to your brand and there's preference connected to it. Because if not, then I should not be giving up any margin at all, because chances are there's no reason for me to do that, right?
Right. Yeah, I think you nailed it with that word preference.
Right.
Preference meaning, would this cause somebody to want to switch from their current solution? Right. And if you can't back that up with, yeah, it's going to make them want to switch. And I get it. I mean, you've got product and you've got price, and those things do come into play. You gotta have it comfortable. If you can make it demonstrable, that's even better. You got a budget a lot of times you're working with. But ultimately, if you're not building value in something, people are going to make a decision on price and price alone. And so I don't think you can just say, I think there's going to be some confusion here. And the confusion is going to come out of, I'm a retailer. I'm going to go launch my own private label stuff because the brands aren't giving me enough. They're not going to know how to do product development and product marketing like some of those brands have been able to do over the years. And then meanwhile, you're going to have brands over here who are drawing back on their investment in the brand marketing because they think that's not getting cascaded down to the consumer level through the retail manager and the RSA. So does this go back to this idea of, man, we really do need good partners, and we need the communication, and we need, an investment from the brand and from the retailer that's consistent and complementary, because otherwise you're just in silos.
Right. Yeah, no, consistency is a big part of it.
I think what we're talking about is actually kind of the theme in the industry right now, which is everybody's doing everything.
Right. No, I see it as a macro trend for sure. But the people you pointed out, City Furniture, Nebraska Furniture Mart, and Havertys, and Jerome's as well, because they are very, very strong on the West Coast. My argument is those guys are legends in their markets for what, like a consumer, they've been around so long, there's an expectation, right? And when I say brand, I'm not talking about a logo on their building. I'm talking about Havertys, as an example, has proven themselves over the years to be a place where the consumer can come and translate this to the other guys I just mentioned. Consumers can come. They trust the retailer to take care of their need. They trust the retailer to give them quality stuff. And my point is, if I'm a retailer right now, what I'm saying to my supplier community is, you better bring it, right? So if I can give my consumer a better value than you can, then there is no reason for me to put your name on my floor. If I can handle it and do a private label or find some unique unicorn type product that delivers big tickets, big margins, then that's where I'm going, unless you can justify the real estate.
Okay, so here's a little bit of a sidebar that connects another big theme in the industry, which is bed in the box. We talked about it on the podcast in the past, that many of these emerging brands, bed in the box brands, have popped open their own retail stores. Some of them are even selling at other retail locations. Some of them non-traditional. I heard Tuft & Needle was selling at Lowe's. Okay? So at the Furniture Today Leadership Conference, they have these different areas set up for some of the vendors. Guess who's there?
Who?
Nectar.
Oh, right.
So if
Bob
you go
McCarthy.
if you go on YouTube right now, like if you go to Nectar's website, yeah, Bob was there. If you go to Nectar's website and then you pop over to YouTube, the odds are very good you're going to see a high production value spot that does an excellent job of building value in their product. Well, they're looking for growth, and they're looking for growth in the retail channel. I don't know how things are online at this moment. Are they getting capped out? Is it so competitive that it's cost prohibitive to add new customers? Those are some of the things that I've heard. They're looking for growth, and they're trying to find it at retail. Now, I say that to bring back in this point. You said earlier, those are some of the brands that are investing most heavily in building their story and building value in what they do. As a retailer, do you start looking at these digital-first brands as the ones who would spark the consumer conversation in your store? Is that what you're...
Hell yes, with one exception, though.
Did you say hail?
Hail. We talked about Texas.
I
think I
make it funny
flashed
because,
back
like,
to my Houston days.
That's why, like,
Hail yes.
I probably do say it like that.
Well, anyway, you're from the country.
Yeah, you betcha.
You speak Southern. Or
We're from the
country,
country, and we
whatever it is.
like it that way.
Country, that's right. So, yes, said differently, without the vulgarity.
Except what's one exception?
Well, no, my point is if
Wait, you didn't tell me the exception.
Nectar is the example here, right? I don't put Nectar on my floor unless Nectar can deliver great product value, right? So if Nectar can be put on my floor, or Purple, or any of these guys wanting to branch out into brick and mortar, whoever they are, if I put you on the floor and you're at $1,000 and your value isn't there at $1,000, I'm not putting you on the floor. Now, I might, though. Let me hedge that a little bit. If Nectar is spending the kind of money they're spending, which I think is around 70 million, 50, 70 million, something like that, then there is value in Nectar to bring people into my store because they are making themselves relevant to the consumer. Now, here's the other thing. I don't think that Nectar is preferred either, right? I don't know that they've built enough loyalty or brand following that people go, oh, Nectar, $1,000 for Nectar, $1,000 for Serta. I'm loyal to Nectar because they've convinced me that their products are better. I'm not sure that they're there, but I'll tell you this, if I'm a consumer and I've been listening to a bunch of Nectar ads and you have it on your floor, even if I come in, even if they're not quite as good as another offering, I might have at $1,000, and as a retailer, they've served their purpose. They brought them in the door. And then it's up to Nectar to actually win the day on the sales side of it. But bring them in if there's value in what they're doing on the marketing side, but let them earn their way. If you see an uptick in your traffic, if you have people coming in asking for it, but if they're not selling because their value isn't there, I think at some point you have to really think about who you're giving real estate to.
Well,
right?
It does go back to what Keith with City Furniture said, which is people want brands because it gives them something to trust. And if you're not building value in it, if you're not investing in the brand, you as a retailer don't have any business, really trying to spin up something if it's just a one-off. Nectar, it is primarily in the digital space at this point. I haven't seen a lot of national TV advertising or things like that, but they're building value in the product. And I think you're right. I mean, you have Tempur-Pedic that over the years really becomes the case study in driving people into the market. They will not be denied the opportunity to try a Tempur-Pedic mattress once they are shopping, and that lends itself to what we talked about with preference. But man, you do have to really spend a lot of money, take a lot of time, have a unique story to get people to that point where they're saying, "Hey, shopping for a mattress, I know this brand, and I've got to try it."
I say be authentic, right? So if you're a retailer or if you're a producer, a bedding producer, be authentic. If you're going to win the sale, then have a better product than the guy selling at a similar price point to you. Don't give me any other BS. I don't want to hear it. Unless you can prove to me quantitatively that you swing my door more than other brands and there's value in your brand and it's preference, not anything else, then you got to bring me a better value for my customer that's in my store. Because what I think customers want when I go shop, I want to be delighted. I want to feel like I got something of great value. I want to trust the retailer that when I buy something there that I'm going to get it home and I'm going to appreciate them because they were the buying agent on my behalf. And I know that if it's on their floor, then it's worthwhile, right? I want to trust them to that degree. And I want to know that if at $1,000 or $3,000 or $5,000, that I'm getting a great product with a great story that justifies the prices that are being asked. Now, if a private label product can deliver better value and you're Havertys, Nebraska Furniture Mart, City Furniture, or fill in the blank, then by all means, I say lean into your own story and build your own value, because I think that a lot of people, furniture specifically, are opening the door wide for retailers to do just that.
The other thing that Keith said was we are losing share to Amazon and Wayfair left and right. And so everything you're saying about building value, so you're going to compete on price with Amazon? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
You're only going to compete on experience. You're going to compete with a certain buyer set that wants that in-store tactile approach to purchasing a product, and you're going to compete by building value. And I'll tell you what, I think Wayfair does a much better job of building value in the products online than Amazon does. I sell on Amazon, just clothing stuff, and you can't do a very good job with putting together a product page that represents the brand the way that you want it to. Wayfair, I think, does a better job of that. In store, there's a little bit of a disconnect typically with, hey, here's a something in the occasional space. Well, what does it mean? Some people are looking for style, some people are looking for the size so they could fill in a certain space. But how are you going to build value? How are you going to make sure that it's done every single time? And how are you going to scale that training across people that might be in a high churn environment?
Right. And you said it perfectly. If you are trying to compete with Wayfair and Amazon at the price game, you will lose that. Right? They're playing a different game than you are.
And if you're playing somebody else's game, they're going to be better at it than you.
Completely agree. That's not your game. To any retailer out there, my 2 cents on it, and I'm not a retailer, so I try to say this as humbly as I can because I don't have the answers for sure. Here's my gut sense of it, though. You guys have built a connection with people in the communities where you live, right? And the more you do that, the more you let people see your heart for the community. Jim McIlvain, another great example. Look at Jordan's Furniture on the East Coast, and Elliot and Sit and Sleep and Larry and Nelson, and you just connect to the people in your community, let them know you, and at the end of the day, Kinsley, it's a trust issue. This is all about a trust issue. Brand is a trust thing, and if they know you and they trust you and they believe in you to give them something good and authentic and real, and they know that if it's not good that you're going to help them with that, then you win. It is not, if you start playing the price game. Now, of course, price comes into play. Part of the trust issue is to know that you're going to get a good value and get a good price. So that's important. But I think people at the end of the day want to trust and the guys that have the connection to the people in their markets will win if those guys continue leaning into that and they stop playing the other guy's game. What do you think? Crazy?
I think that's spot on. I think at this point in time, the competition for attention is higher than it's ever been, and it's only going to get worse. So what do you do with that? So if you look at it, you think, I can't outspend anybody. No, but you can out-consistent them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is just what you said. Get creative with the way that you capture attention. Get creative with the things you're doing in the community. Show your heart, because your culture is your brand. You have to continually put a magnifying glass into your retail location, into your store, and show people your heart, show people your values, show people what you stand for consistently over time, and it will snowball. And this kind of connects back to some funny stuff I saw at Black Friday, but Seth Godin has a new book out, and he's like a big marketing guy, and sometimes I stay away from this stuff because it gets a little echo chamber-ish in the marketing world. But he's sharp.
He brings fresh stuff, no doubt.
So his new book is called This is Marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and one of his central points is you have to find your minimum viable tribe, is what it basically comes down to. And the question he asks, or the thing he says, is people like us do things like this. And so when you start thinking in those terms, who are your people? And it's only by finding those people, and it's only by if you're going to be able to show up consistently over time, you can't be doing stuff that doesn't align with who you are. or with your values. You're going to have to find something that creates congruency in your life and in your business.
Playing your game.
And playing your game, right? And it made me think, okay, here's an example. So have you ever played this game, Cards Against Humanity?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's a vulgar
I'm
card
almost
game.
embarrassed to say that because
I
some of
played
the
it too.
questions in there are crazy.
They're
I think
terrible.
I played the first time I played it was at your house, so yeah.
What? What
You
are you
were the
talking
bad
about?
influence on me.
Somebody
but
loaned it to me, probably.
stop it.
So I think they actually say like their tagline is something like, "It's a card game for terrible people." But they're a bunch of comedy writers, and they put together this card game. Well, anyway, that's a big piece of their business is obviously selling these cards and the expansion packs and that whole thing. But over Black Friday, they were really asking themselves, people like us do things like what? And they hate Black Friday. They think it's the worst example of consumerism on the planet, and they decide to rebel against that every year. So this year, their big campaign, and I'll tell you about some of the campaigns in the past here in a second. This year's campaign was a 99% off sale, but not off of their stuff. It was 99% off things like an 85-inch Sony 4K TV. You know how much that went for? $35.
Wow. How many did they give?
They only had one of each item, so every 10 minutes they would pop up. Oh, wait, hey, here's
They
one.
didn't last long.
They had an original Picasso
Come on.
that went for a cool $60.
No.
They had they even had a 2015 red Ford Fiesta with 25,000 miles on it. They sold it for $97.
Jeez.
Oh, and then
it was a mockery of the event.
Yeah, it was a mockery because they also had things like a portable sauna, a poncho toilet, this is one of my favorites, a
Poncho
double-decker cat stroller. You could have used that.
I-
All you have to do is steal another cat.
No, I've got 3. I'm
No.
good. No, it's good. I've got plenty of cats.
All you got to do is steal one more cat, and you
Yeah.
can use the double-decker. They had an all-inclusive vacation to Antarctica. But here's
So-
what they did: like only one person could win. So they were asking people like us do things like this. So if you got through to the other side on this trip to Antarctica, you had to spell Antarctica forwards, backwards, and then forwards again. And then that got you through to the next screen where you could actually make the purchase. And people were just
that's
like
so funny.
griping left and right online and this, that, and the other. But meanwhile, the people who got it were like, what a bunch of buffoons,
Yeah.
you know?
But people who liked it and respected it and thought it was funny, so they're trying to appeal to a sense of humor or an audience that is like them.
They were putting out a
Irreverence.
giant magnet,
Yes.
and only the people with
love
lead
it.
vests would be attracted to it.
Oh, my.
It was really just them flying their flag. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to fly that flag, do it without shame, do it consistently over time, and make sure it's unique and different. Make sure that you're carving out your own game. Okay, you want to hear some of the past promotions?
Yes.
So some of the past promotions that Cards Against Humanity did against Black Friday, one year they just raised the price of their game $5 and saw a significant spike in sales. One year they sold an actual box of bull, you know what? Like people got a box of poop in the mail from a bull.
Nice.
30,000 boxes were sold.
30,000.
One year they said they're going to take donations for their Dig a Holiday Hole in Illinois. They raised $100,000 for no apparent reason. They dug the hole. They filled it up later that week. Some of the frequently asked questions online were, is this for anything? And the answer was no. And they left it at
Donate
that.
here, by the way. Oh my gosh. And they raised $100,000. I hope they're giving this to charity.
And apparently last year they sold a Pringles knockoff called Prongles at Target stores. So anyway, but what they're doing there is like not everybody's going to get it. Actually, most people won't get it. But can you find your minimum viable audience within your marketplace who are going to buy everything you sell? Because think about it. The game these days for so many of the new folks is what? Customer acquisition. And
It
it's
is.
expensive. Who's the easiest person to sell to? An existing customer.
Right.
Somebody who's already bought from you. So that delight, that depth is going to be so much more meaningful than surface level acquisition.
You know, it makes me, as you were talking about that, being good at what you do and reaching out. The Jerome's guys, I literally don't know anything about their business, but I've been watching
But
them.
we're going to give them some advice right
But
now.
we're coming. Jerome's
We'll tell you
people,
about it,
listen
though.
up. I got the no. I have no advice. I'll tell you, it's an impact they've had on me. I've been watching them in LinkedIn, and I love them. Like, I want to go there. I want someone from Jerome's to reach out to me and invite me to come. I want to come see your business because they look like they're having such a good time. They constantly post stuff about meetings that they're having. They lift up people. They talk about their people a lot. And it just seems like a really fun place to be. And so I think they've done a great job, even in the B2B space, right, of kind of building a personality. I'm sure that also permeates into the market. I bet they're doing really well. I don't even know.
And I'll tell you, that has a big
That's
impact
my
on your
guess.
suppliers, too. I remember back when I was trying to round up this panel, and I was just asking a few people about cool retailers and who they might be, and I was getting several different opinions. But it was neat to talk to some of the people in the supplier community who really respected these retailers. And whenever I got to know those retailers, the respect for their suppliers was mutual. Everything they do, as a supplier, you want to do business with companies that are fun and innovative and lifting up people like Jerome's, like you said. That's great, and it makes a better industry. It makes a healthier industry, and it helps us compete for the consumer dollar as a group.
It does.
Instead of working against each other.
Okay, I got a litmus test for you. Tell me if you think this works. So this is for you out there too, if you work for a company. Run this test on any company that you do business with or that we're talking about. If their logo or commercial comes up, or even you see a tweet by any kind of like visual cue you see about this company. So pick a company, any company. If you feel something when you see that visual cue, if you feel something when they come on television and they have a commercial, if you feel something when the Apple logo pops up onto your screen, if you feel something when you see something from Tom Shoes, if you feel something when you see something from you look at a spokesperson for any company, Jim McInville, great example because of all this. If there is a connection to that person or logo, then I think you've done a great job. And by the way, Kinsley, that doesn't mean that you have to spend $70 million a year either. That just means you have to tell your story. And it could be in social media. It could be volunteering time as people in your stores go out and work in different nonprofits, potentially. If you're a bedding producer and you're selling into retailer, it could be your presence at trade events. It could be your presence on LinkedIn. It could be what you say. It could be the people that you hire, all kinds of things. But there's ways to do it. If you feel a connection to those companies, then I think you're doing it right. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I remember this guy at one of the conferences one time. He had on these green glasses. And I'm not saying everybody go out and do something that's kind of like campy like that, like put on your green glasses. But the point to me was when he walks out of the room, he gets described as the guy with the green glasses. Mm-hmm. There was something vivid and specific and memorable about who he was. So how do you take that and put it into play? Like, what would people say about you? They're the X company. Because I really think you can only own like one piece of real estate in people's minds. It reminds me of Sleep Train back in the day. So Daryl Carlson told me, I said, well, how did you guys get involved with the foster kids program? And, Brian Baxter was really involved in that on the front end, and he worked with Dale to get the Sleep Train foster kids fundraising program up and going. And he said, it was something we were passionate about, and it was something where we saw we were making an impact. And then it also, he said, gave us a way to focus our energy and effort. And I was getting calls all the time, is what Dale told me, from all these different charities. And he goes, I wanted to have a deep impact, and I wanted to make it manageable for our team, and I wanted it to be something that we became known for. And so, in that Sacramento market, Sleep Train was very much connected with foster kids programs, and that thing took off and raised so much money. And I sat there and I listened to some of the kids' lives who were impacted, who have grown up to be articulate young adults, and that was because of that effort at Sleep Train. Focus and consistency over time. Very easy things to say, very difficult to execute.
No doubt. It is absolutely true. And back to your point of consistency. Eric Coleman. Equalman.
Is that his name?
Eric Wallman.
Nicely done. Social media guy.
How about that? No, he goes even further than the glasses because he also, if you look at his content, he's written some stuff and he's a good guy. So it's anyway. I think we're going down the same path, man. I think for any of you, and it's personal branding too, by the way. Just connect to people. I think that's what it's all about. And I would love to have been there at that and listen to that panel discussion. Those are legends in the business, the people that you mentioned with Havertys and Nebraska Furniture, Martin Jerome's, and City Furniture. And it's always good to listen to guys like that. And I love their vulnerability too, by the way, the fact that they were acknowledging the issues with digital. But, you know, for all of us out there, play your game. And these digital guys are fine and their price really good at the pricing and service, but boy, oh boy, if you deliver an in-store experience and you continue connecting with the people in your audience, then you can kick their butt. There's no doubt in my mind.
I have a feeling we are connecting with our audience, unless I'm totally being set up with our Dos Marcos Sleep Geek audience. Kirsten, okay. Apparently, we got a letter from, I use this term very loosely, a fan. Okay?
No, I think they're legitimate. I think we need to stop.
No, hold on.
Because
I can't tell if this is fake or not.
Okay, all right.
So what happened?
So this is over the top.
I didn't hear
then.
back from you. Did somebody want an autographed picture of Mark and I?
Someone sent that they were your biggest fan.
But hold on, they sent it in the mail? Or this is email?
Email.
So they sent an email saying
Was
they
her
were our
last
biggest fans.
name Kinsley
Or Quinn.
or Quinn.
And she,
Unknown.
it was unknown.
Unknown.
So we, have we
well, no
replied to
wonder.
them and begged them for their address so we can actually send them an autographed picture?
We have not begged her for her address yet.
It would be my first one, so that would be really exciting. But here, you know, on that note, though, number one, go like the podcast. We appreciate if you would do that. And rate it because that's always helpful. That's the game these days.
If you're on iTunes, then do it on iTunes, or if you listen on SoundCloud or
Right. If you
on Sleep
connect
Geek,
with us,
I mean,
if
that's probably the best way.
if they connect with us, right? If
Yeah,
we've earned that
absolutely.
from them. But the other thing is, I want to thank everyone that listens because, you know, the growth of this podcast, we kind of joke and say it's the world's most successful mattress industry podcast, which is true. But the growth in the audience for this podcast has blown me away. Like, it is shocking to me how many people give us their time every time we publish. And they will listen and share thoughts and tweet at us or send us notes and email, whatever. But I'm really grateful for that. And it's been fun to watch this grow. It was your idea originally. I thought you were crazy. I'm so glad.
That is accurate, though.
It has no doubt. But I'm glad we did it. It's been a lot of fun to do, and I'm grateful for other people that listen in.
And I love seeing the creativity that people are stacking on top of the podcast, like Michael Moore with Pleasant Mattress. You know, Michael has a sales team, and he'll mention something specific from within the podcast and have his team report back, and he turns it into a game and makes it fun for his team. So if you have any creativity you're using the podcast as a springboard for, please let us know, because I want to share that with other people and hopefully build them up. Oh, and by the way, congratulations to, speaking of Pleasant Mattress, Ryan Morgenstern, the CEO there, was able to partner with McCroskey Mattress and has purchased that brand. So congratulations to Robin Azevedo McCroskey and the entire team. They're going to maintain that retail operation in San Francisco. You and I have been there. You got attacked by a Yeti.
I got thrown down by a Yeti.
And I took a picture of it for proof.
Standing over me laughing. But yeah, we should link to that episode, Kirsten. That would be kind of
we'll have to link back to the Bigfoot episode. But that's big news, and I think that that Pleasant is going to take that brand and do something outside of the Northern California market. And of course they are outside of that market, but it's been from people coming to them and seeing this heritage brand. And
great way to land the
connecting
plane
with
today, Kinsley, because they are a group of people that have really connected with the people in their market. The way they sponsor the outdoor movies, and they're just
all the arts events.
Yeah,
They
all
have
the
this
arts
space
events.
in the top of their used to be their old mattress factory, and they're very connected to the arts, and that's part of their DNA. And so they bring in these different violin players and ballet and things of that nature, and it does really, really well with their audience, and it's who they are, and people can see that and they connect with it.
People like us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Do things like this.
that's right.
All right, cool. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in. If you were listening on the podcast on SoundCloud or on iTunes and you want to see it, always get connected with us on Facebook and have a great week. Happy selling, and let us know if there's anything we can do.
Hey, let's roll with a little bit of Get Hybrid.
I like that idea.
You could bounce on it. Yeah, bounce with it, bounce with it. Bounce with it, bounce with it. All right. What is a hybrid? It's like peanut butter jelly, peanut butter chocolate, hybrid so